here. Let's get into it. We're going to start this episode with UConn. As you likely know, it was 22 days ago. Time flies, huh? When Dan Hurley's Huskies won a 12th straight game in the NCAA tournament by double digits to secure a second straight national championship. Incredible stuff. Gone from that team, Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, Donovan Clingan, Stephon Castle. That's 4 starters. Obviously a lot to lose, but in the 3 weeks since the season has ended, Dan Hurley and his staff, they've added the type of pieces that should make UConn a legitimate threat to three-peat as national champions. They got Terrace Reed from Michigan. He just started 31 games for the Wolverines, former top 40 recruit, class of 2022. They got Liam McNeely, a 5-star prospect, ranked 18th in the class of 2024. That's according to 24/7 Sports. And then, of course, on Monday, they added Aid Mahaney, the all-WCC guard from St. Mary's. So now UConn is set, likely to return 5 of its top 9 scorers, 1 starter, 5 of its top 9 scorers, and combine it with Aid Mahaney, Terrace Reed, Liam McNeely, and 2 other top 100 recruits from the class of 2024. Norlander, first question, just to keep with tradition here on the Ion College Basketball Podcast. As we sit here right now, is it clear to you that UConn should be ranked ahead of Purdue?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes.
It's clear. It's clear. It's clear to me too.
Oh, it's clear to you. I'm glad that you've seen the light.
It's clear to me too.
Did you just drop a 5 of the top 9, by the way?
I think you're the top 9.
Okay. So, and with that, he's including Hassan Diarra, who will return and play point. Samson Johnson, solo ball. Solo ball averaged 11.5 minutes. Keep an eye on him. I think he's got real good potential to break out next season. And then, are you including Jalen Stewart in that as well?
I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he only averaged 2.5 points. So as solo ball didn't even average more than 3.5 points per game. So they will be bigger producers, but they're not returning as established guys. So should be a little bit clearer on that. But I get what you're saying.
It's pretty. Of the top 9 scores on UConn this past season, 5 of them are set to return. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how that was confusing.
No, well, okay. Are you ready to declare solo ball will be a 13 All-American?
No, I can't go there yet. And obviously with Alex Karabin, we got a decision to make. He's in the draft. He's maintained his college eligibility. He's one of those guys who could listen, there's no wrong decision. He can reasonably enter the NBA draft and stay in it and probably, or at least possibly, get selected, or he could come back to UConn and try to win a 3rd straight national championship. Yeah. I have him projected as back for now, but as always, we'll see. I'm gonna leave it. You know what? If you don't mind, I'm gonna leave that up to him.
But we can speculate on it. Here's everything with Karabin. One, my opinion is that he will get drafted if he stays in. Now, the tricky part is, would he get drafted 37th or would he get drafted 51st? And if he comes back, personally, I will have him somewhere in the, 11 to 20 range overall when we do our list of the top 101 players in the sport. I'll have him in there. He will be in contention to be a preseason All-American, as he should be. Interesting thing about Karabin is he's going to have largely a whole new set of characters to play alongside of after winning. He has 2 national titles already. It's a fascinating decision because he was the 5th leading scorer as a freshman. He was the 3rd leading scorer last season, and he would be set up to be UConn's leading scorer potentially, and could help his draft stock all the more. But I think he could go as high as, say, 25 or as low as, say, 50, 52 or something like that. So he is an interesting one. And UConn is now, I reported this on Monday, UConn is in the wait and see mode. It's on Karabin watch, basically to see what he's going to do. Dan Hurley has not used up all of his scholarships, but also will not do that. He didn't do it last year. It's a practice that you see more and more because, frankly, once you get down to scholarship number 12 and scholarship number 13, there's only so many minutes to go around, and having one less person who might be griping over minutes isn't the worst thing for a staff there. So they wait on Karabin, and we'll get to this guy more when we talk Kentucky. But just to clarify, because UConn fans, I think we're waiting to see if we had more. Mahaney committing on Monday publicly. He had vocalize to the staff that he was doing that before Monday. But that's why Kobe Brea is not going to be a Husky. They aren't even recruiting him anymore. And so what you have here is Samson Johnson or Terrace Reed starting at the 5. It'll be Caravan at the 4 if he returns. If not, Jalen Stewart, or that's where, guys who are flirting with staying or going in the NBA draft. Like if Caravan stays in the draft, then I think you will see UConn go and try and get another portal 4-man. At the 3, McNeely, Jaden Ross, sophomore, Isaiah Abraham, who's an incoming freshman. They can all play the 3. There's a lot of interchangeable stuff with the way UConn runs its offense, but I'm trying to put these guys in buckets, GP. And then Solo Ball at the 2, along with freshman Ahmad Noel. And then you've got Diarra and Mahaney. Mahaney can play the 1 or the 2. It's a good pickup, by the way. Mahaney was one of the bigger names. I'm not as high on him as some. Good player, a lot of fun potential. He was a mini revelation at St. Mary's as a freshman. And then last season, he was good, but he did not take the jump that many expected him to take. Stagnated just a little bit. And now a guy who grew up just down the road from St. Mary's, dreaming to play for Randy Bennett, he's going to fly across the country and completely change his scene and surroundings there and step into a program that's the best one in the sport. And he will be tasked with a lot. He won't be asked to absolutely run UConn's offense, but he'll have the ball in his hands plenty. You can argue that he plays and thrives just as much off ball as he does on, but it's a big get, unquestionably, for Dan Hurley and his program there. UConn right now, I know you've got him there. That roster, to me, if Caravan's there, that roster is unquestionably top 5 heading into the season. If you take him off, it might be depending on who they'd get in the portal to play that power forward spot. But overall, McNeely is a huge get, and they've restocked well. And as I half joked on Monday after Mahaney committed, the Dan Hurley portal updates, I'm sitting here in agony. I'm lying on the floor like this is done. Although I was told that we should probably expect at least one more, later this week for whatever reason. So just keep that in mind.
I have UConn up to number 4 in the top 25-1 as of this morning, with the addition of Aiden Mahaney. If I'm being honest, if you just stripped away the name UConn and stripped away Dan Hurley and just showed me the roster, I don't think that's the 4th best roster in the country. But
yeah, but I'm putting in you, as I know you are too, GP. It's Hurley, and he has that staff can now claim to be the best staff in the country. So you put all of that together. But I will say this and then take it away. Mahaney's his role will probably be similar to Cam Spencer, but they are not the same player. And Mahaney, at least not yet, he's not walking in cock of the walk the way Cam Spencer did last summer when they realized once he got on campus just who they had. So just keep that in mind, UConn fans. Like, he's going to be a good player, but he's not going to do and be asked to do the same things and doesn't have the same kind of mentality and makeup as Spencer.
He's not going to walk in like what?
Like cock of the walk. What?
Define that for me.
You're not familiar with the phrase?
Cock walking?
No, the cock of the walk.
No, I'm not familiar with that. Please.
Really? You really?
No,
anyone in the live chat? Anyone in the live chat ever heard the phrase?
I've ever heard that. Tell me what it means.
It just means, someone who's, very, very confident and is stands out amongst a group and is, kind of strutting their stuff. You've never heard
Anthony Edwards. That's Anthony Edwards.
It's very much Anthony Edwards. Yes.
Okay.
It absolutely is Anthony Edwards. And
okay.
I'm here to tell you, Aiden Mahaney will not be Anthony Edwards. That's what I can.
Aiden Mahaney, not Anthony Edwards. Tweet that.
Right. Yes.
just tweet that without no context.
How about you tweet it for once? How about you? No context. How about you tweet it for once?
I stopped tweeting. I don't tweet anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. It's so ugly. That For You tab ruined it for me. Man, I wake up every morning not knowing what on earth is going on in the world because of that For You tab. It's too much. I don't think this roster is a top 4 roster as currently constructed in the sport, but like it's Dan Hurley and it's UConn, so whatever. I'm just gonna believe that they know what they're doing because they seem to know what they're doing. Let me ask you this: are the Mahaney and Brea recruitments connected? Do you have to move off of Brea to secure the commitment from Mahaney?
Yeah, right. They are connected. I think they're connected from UConn's perspective and what Mahaney's going to provide and not having another. Plus, I think Brea, understandably so, like he was 3rd overall in 3-point accuracy last season. but no one took more threes and made a higher percentage of them than him. And so it was Mahaney over Brea. Yeah, there wasn't going to be two. There was I'm not going to give you the name, but there was another player that was actually scheduled to visit UConn, and even that visit got canceled because on account of them.
Oh, give me the name. Give me the name. Give us the name. Give us the name.
Can't give you the name.
Boo. Yeah. Boo. I'll text Rothstein. He's going to give me the name. He'll give us the name.
Okay.
So I that makes sense to me then. If you got to take one or the other, I would take Aiden Mahaney over Kobe Brea. I'd love to have them both, but if you're saying you can't secure Mahaney without moving off, then yeah, I would have done the same thing. So we'll see where they go from here. Obviously, Karaban's decision is going to loom large, but I'm just at a point where I'm going to I'm going to have UConn in the top 10 no matter what, and in the top 5 if Karaban's back, and they're going to be among the favorites, perhaps not the favorite to win the national championship. Kansas right now is the favorite at FanDuel at plus 1,000, but UConn's right there in the conversation, and so I don't think there's any getting around this. We spent so much time last season talking about UConn is best positioned, perhaps better positioned than anybody in the past X amount of years to repeat since Florida in 2006 and 2007. Well, Florida in 2008 was not equipped to try to three-peat. They lost everything and didn't add enough stuff to compete for that type of thing. UConn, no matter what happens going forward, do you agree with this? UConn is going to be in a position to realistically dream about winning a third straight NCAA tournament. That's going to be on the table no matter what.
I think it should fairly be considered on the table heading into the season. There's a lot of other portal decisions that are going to impact and influence, obviously, where you wind up slotting teams in your preseason / off-season top 10. But with this group, and I think Karaban is the key, it's fair to say that you got to see, Ball, Stewart, Ross, these sophomores that I think will have a chance to really step up and shine. But heading in, it's fair to say that this roster is not as good as the other two that won national championship. And that's totally, by the way, last season's roster is one of the best teams in the past 4 or 5 decades. And the one before that was also super, super good with established studs on it. And, for me, it's like Adama Sanogo, and then Donovan Clingan. Like, now you're going to ask either Terrace Reed and or Samson Johnson to be able to try and get close to representing and replicating what those guys like. That's a huge, huge ask. So it's in the discussion. Not going to see UConn getting to preseason number 1 status, and there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean they can't eventually get there. Just more pieces that need to prove themselves. And if anything, as you said before, the team's been being given the benefit of the doubt and maybe getting slotted up an extra 2, 4, 6 spots because it has Hurley and it has that staff.
Yeah. I wouldn't blame any human. In fact, I think Eamon Brennan, our buddy Eamon Brennan, when he published a preseason top 25, he just put UConn number 1 and said, argue with me, really, you think this is stupid? It seems like the smartest thing you could do. And I understand that logic. I do not think UConn will get to preseason number 1. I don't think UConn's roster can match Kansas's roster right now. And I don't think it's going to get to a point where it can match Kansas's roster. Kansas, I believe, is going to be the preseason number 1. I don't see how anybody can catch them. I don't want to say that. We'll see, but I'd be surprised if anybody caught them from a roster perspective. So I'm assuming Kansas will be number 1, but UConn's going to be right there with them. And to your point about the rosters, comparing them to recent years, like last year, they did lose a lot, 3 starters, but they were bringing back Tristan Newton, who was better than any returning guard, at least statistically in all the ways, than any returning guard they're bringing back this year. And they were bringing back Clingan, who was, a projected top 10 pick, now maybe going to be a top 5 pick. They're not bringing back that kind of front court player. So they're not bringing back as much. And, we'll see about what they've added. But the thing I think is important to remember about this roster that Dan is going to take into next season is, who thought Cam Spencer was Cam Spencer this time last year? Who thought Tristan Newton was going to make the jump from whatever he was to first-team All-American? So there's some real internal stuff going on there that I think elevates individuals across the board. And I know that the number I threw out earlier, 5 of the top 9, might not mean a lot to some because most of those guys were very minimal role players, or at least some of those guys were minimal role players. But there's some development stuff happening in that program where guys are taking jumps year after year and growing into roles as they're needed. And I'm assuming that's going to happen again at UConn next season.
Yeah, that's a fair assumption to have. And intriguing team, fascinating, good for the sport to have the 2-time reigning champions be able to reload in a lot of ways. And Mahaney joining the roster, I think, is really, really fascinating. And to see if he can make a jump and really get to that place where he is, potentially a top 10 to 15 guard in America, which was the expectation after his freshman season. He did not come close to getting to that this past season. That'll be one to watch. And they are reloaded, and now we just wait on Karaban, and that'll probably be a few weeks here as he goes through the pre-draft process. He's going to work out with a number of teams and then decide, does he want to for sure just be – I cannot see how he doesn't get drafted personally. It would be stunning to me if he wasn't picked. However, there's a real case to be made that if he does come back and does turn into an All-American, he will go even higher and be a surefire first-round pick next year. And if that were the case, there's obviously a lot to be said that. So keep an eye and wait on that. I would think mid-May at the earliest on Karaban's decision.